Welcome to the Jacksonville Bar Association podcast. My name is Craig Shoup. I'm the executive director here at the Jacksonville Bar, and today we're excited to have Pat Kilbane join us. Pat is the general counsel and a wealth advisor for Ullman Wealth Partners, headquartered in Jacksonville Beach. Prior to joining Ullman, Pat had a successful law practice in matrimonial and family law. He had previously worked as a shareholder for both Gray Robinson and Rogers Towers. Pat has been recognized multiple times by Florida Trend and Super Lawyers magazine for his skills and professionalism. Pat serves Northeast Florida region in several roles. He's received 5 gubernatorial appointments to the Judicial Nominating Commission for the 4th Judicial Circuit and the Jacksonville Aviation Authority Board of Directors. His fellow board members elected him chairman of both boards. Pat is a past Jacksonville Bar Association Young Lawyers Section president and is currently the president of the Jacksonville Lawyers chapter of the Federalist Society. Before we get started, I do want to say a special thank you to all of our Jacksonville Bar Association sponsors. These sponsors include Ameris Bank, Dex Imaging, Dixon Hughes Goodman, Member Benefits, Mulholland Investigation and Computer Forensics, Orange Legal, a Veritex company, Florida Lawyers Mutual Insurance Company, YFast Networks, Charles Van Consulting, CH Mediation, Ullman Wealth Partners, Diamonds Direct, and Scarlett Group. At this time, we do have a quick message from one of our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Julie Roundtree from Divorce Coaching Solutions. As a certified divorce coach, I help men and women who are simply overwhelmed by the divorce process and feeling helpless, emotional, and anxious. During our sessions, I provide them with the support they need to create clarity, confidence, and the ability to move forward with grace. If you are a family law practitioner, we also offer coaching packages to your clients where your clients can have easy access to a divorce coach when they're feeling overwhelmed. And they can schedule their sessions right on our website. Let your team focus on the legal work and save the emotional part for us. Distinguish your firm by offering divorce coaching, and you'll see why we are the missing piece of the divorce puzzle. Divorce Coaching Solutions is reinventing the divorce experience for family law firms and their clients. Please visit our website at mydivorcecoaches.com or call me, Julie Roundtree, at 904-274-6611.
We appreciate the support of all of our sponsors of the Jacksonville Bar Association. Well, Pat, after all of that, welcome. We're glad you're here with us today. Tell us a little bit about you and what made you want to become a lawyer.
Thanks, Craig. First, it's great to be here, and it's great to see all the improvements that you and the staff of the Bar Association have made, particularly with technology. This studio in particular is very impressive. So great work. Keep it up. What made me want to become a lawyer? You know, when I was 8 years old, that was the presidential campaign between George H.W. Bush and Michael Dukakis. That used to sound like a young man telling that story. Now I'm sort of dating myself. But I remember talking about the political process and the elections and the campaigns with my dad and told him that I thought that I wanted to be a congressman when I grew up. And he said, listen, if that's the route you want to take, you need to go to law school. So really, since I was 8 years old, in the summer of 1988, I mean, that has been my one-track career goal to go to law school.
Cool. Okay. So in a lot of reading and prep for this interview, I keep finding your name popping up on different boards and commissions and different service leadership things all throughout Northeast Florida and the state, realistically. I know it takes a lot of time away from your work and your friends and your family. Why do you think it's so important to be so involved in your community?
You know, Craig, this is where we live. This is where, we have our families and, our kids and nieces and nephews. And I think Jacksonville has a lot of untapped potential. I know you're very involved in the community. And, the legal profession, I think, is very unique where we have an obligation to provide pro bono legal services and step up and be a community trustee and give back to the community. I think it is also important, lawyers are often called upon to be, the mediators and the people who the community turns to solve some really thorny community issues. I also think it's important for lawyers to be out there, with legal advertising and how competitive the legal market is in Jacksonville. I think you really build trust with your referral sources and potential clients when they see you out doing work in the community, and they get to know a different dimension of you when they don't see you just in a suit, when they see you giving back to help a particular organization that you're passionate about. So for all of those reasons, that's why I think community service and involvement is very important.
So let's go back to some of your time when you were working as a lawyer, because you're doing more of the investment world right now. Tell us a great story you remember from a case you were involved in, or that you may or may not have taken to trial, that you could share with us.
A case that I may or may not have taken to trial. God, in the family law world, you're working with people who are in, private client services, and the facts are obviously very confidential. I don't know about great stories in divorce cases. I don't know that there's many great stories, but I think the cases that I'm most proud of are the ones where I had to share, I had to be a counselor and not tell my clients what they wanted to hear, where I, had to give them legal advice about, certain exposures that they had if they brought the case to trial. Or other times I, consulted with people who they were looking to achieve this outcome, and I said, okay, if you go down this road, that path is going to present you with these future challenges, and I'd advise against it. I mean, certainly if you want to go down that, I don't think that you're engaging in bad faith litigation. I just think that you may win the battle, but ultimately lose the war. And, family law is unique because you certainly, your primary job is advocating for the best interests of your client. You've got to be a zealous advocate for your client. But there's also kids involved. And you can take your client's position, but if you know that your client's position that you advocate for is going to leave a tremendous amount of collateral damage in the wake, you got to be mindful of that too. And you got to help them reach that conclusion that if they're going to take that path, that it's going to cause all sorts of problems. Family law, in the more complicated financial cases, it's challenging, but I think the real skill of a family law attorney is trying to see the big picture, to try to help and counsel the clients to set their emotions aside and really help give them the perspective and understand and look past the emotions that they're currently feeling right now and look 5, 10, 15 years down the road.
That's great advice for both practitioners in that field to be able to give that type of advice, and for any of the general public who may see this, of what they may need to hear is not what they want to hear.
Sure.
So you've been involved with the Jacks Bar for a long time. You're a past Young Lawyers section president. Tell us why you think it's important for folks to be a part of the Jacks Bar.
The Jacks Bar, certainly, let me back up to 2005. I moved to Jacksonville. I knew nobody in town except for my then wife and her family. And really the Jacksonville Bar Association is the place where I came to. I didn't go to law school in Florida like a bunch of my colleagues and, professional friends who went to Florida State, Miami, Florida Coastal. I didn't have those natural connections, so I had to build those. And getting elected to the Young Lawyers Board in 2007 really helped catapult my career. And, the interesting thing, when I was on the board at that time, the legal landscape, the big firms were thriving and they were huge. When I was at Rogers Towers, Craig, we had almost 100 attorneys here in Jacksonville back in the 2005, 2006. Well, then the financial crisis hit, and what happened was you had all of these lawyers who were on the Young Lawyer Board at that time. They all broke up and left their big firms. And as the lone family law attorney on the Young Lawyers Board, I started getting referrals from Holland and Knight, McGuire Woods, all of these big firms in town that didn't have a family law group. And then the people that I was on the Young Lawyers Board with, they started their own firms or they went to smaller firms. So I still had the relationships at the large firms, And then I also had relationships at all of these brand new firms or, regional firms that started to pop up in Jacksonville. And so, I had a niche, and everybody else seemed to be like they were in commercial litigation, but I was the lone, specialty litigation guy on the board. So I wasn't competing with anybody else, so to speak, on the board. It really helped accelerate my career and sort of get known in the community.
You see a lot of attorneys that are either new to the practice coming into town, or you see a lot of, especially now with Zoom and folks practicing from other areas of the state coming here to the Fourth. I've always said the Fourth is a little different than other places around the state. What do you think lawyers who are either new to the practice or new to practicing here in the Fourth should know that they don't learn in law school?
Your question will help me complete my answer to the question you last asked me. Being involved in the Jacksonville Bar Association, this Bar Association has prided itself on holding its members accountable to practice with professionalism and civility, and having relationships around the state with judges and other lawyers. I know that the other lawyers around the state don't talk about their bar in the same way that we talk about our bar. And I think one of the most essential parts of being a member of the JBA is you're held accountable by some of the deans of the Bar Association and the lions of our Bar Association, the past presidents, where if you're quickly getting a reputation as somebody who is not upholding the tradition that we have in this Bar Association for professionalism and civility, our Bar Association sort of polices itself. And I think we have a great bench. Another benefit to the Bar Association, when you're young, you really don't know the judges, I guess, unless you sort of lived here. But the judicial relations, the young lawyers' breakfasts, these are awesome events to help people really get to know the judiciary, form relationships, professional relationships with the judges, where when you walk into the courtroom, you're not as, I guess, in awe or, sort of intimidated by the judges as you would be, and you start to gain that credibility. So I think, for all of those things, our bar, I think any lawyer in Jacksonville needs to be a member of the bar, if not for it helps us remember our obligations and our duties to honor that tradition of professionalism and civility in this circuit.
That's always something that I think all of our lawyers around here are always for the most part, very good at, is that professional civility. The stories you hear out of Miami and South Florida sometimes you don't necessarily hear a lot here.
Well, and Craig, from being at all the investitures that you've been at and going into the courtrooms, in every hearing room on every one of our judges' tables, they have a wooden plaque that says professionalism and civility. Nothing less will be tolerated. That's in your face every single time you go into one of our courtrooms.
Yeah.
I think it's a great tradition, and maybe other circuits or other jurisdictions around the state or around the country have that, but it's a really unique and special thing about our circuit, which I know the bar helps perpetuate that.
So I will tell you, as we kind of move on from that question a little bit, one of the favorite questions I've had on this series, and what I get a lot of feedback people enjoy, is what are some of your favorite restaurants to have dinner at with your friends and family?
Oh gosh, I certainly like to eat, but I'm not necessarily super picky on the restaurants. Ruth's Chris right here downtown seems to be a great place because of its location, and now the Calford Chop House, when the Bench and Bar Party has been in this Wells Fargo building in the atrium here, a group of us have, the last few years, gone and had dinner at the Calford Chop House immediately following the Bench and Bar Party, which is great. I think, J. Alexander's or the Capitol Grill at the Town Center, just for their central location, those are easy. I'm not a real fancy foodie. I like the spots where, they're nicer, and but if I'm bringing somebody in from out of town who's really never been to Jacksonville before, and I want to show them a special time, I take them up to the River Club and have dinner up on the 34th floor so they can get the perspective of our beautiful city from that view.
Those are all great spots for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, we want to thank you for joining us today. We're excited. If folks have questions about how to, maybe want to touch base with you about how they got more involved, how to get more involved in the bar, or how to get more involved in our community, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Certainly. Our website, ullmanwealthpartners.com. Ullman has 2 L's and 2 N's. You can send me an email, my first initial, last name, at ullmanwealthpartners.com. I am always happy to help, young and old get involved in the Bar Association. And the last thing that I would say to that is I can't emphasize the mentoring program. I know there's a lot of hesitancy for somebody to come forward and say, I need a mentor. But one of the best pieces of advice that I got when I was a young attorney, and remember, I started out at a massive law firm, so it was easy to have mentors within the firm. But I learned the most when I took the initiative and reached out to other attorneys in my practice area and asked them to serve as my mentor. One that really, 2 that come to mind are Homer Bliss and Barry Zisser. I like to think my style of litigating was, I took what I thought were the excellent qualities from the 3 attorneys that directly supervised me. But then I really liked some of the things that I saw Homer do, particularly when he was on the other side, and also Barry Zisser. So I tried to, mix and match my style with some of the best things that I thought that each one of these different lawyers brought to the table. And I also think that, you just get a different perspective when you reach out of your comfort zone and talk to somebody else and learn how they see the world or how they interpret a case, or something that they learned from practicing in front of a judge that maybe you haven't had a lot of experience from. The pet peeves or, some of the local customs in that division. All of those things are great insights and extremely helpful. And I have never, ever once encountered a lawyer in this community that was unwilling to take the time to help a young lawyer or a brand new attorney, no matter what their age is, get out of the blocks and really help them advance their career. So I'm willing to do it, and I know there's no shortage of JBA members who are also willing to do the same.
Absolutely. I know currently this year, Judge Flowers is again chairing our mentoring committee. So folks are looking for a mentor and for having trouble finding somebody, reach out to the bar. We're happy to get you connected with Judge Flower and that committee for sure. Well, again, thank you, Pat, for joining us. We're excited that you were able to be here today, and we will see you at our next episode.
Thanks, Craig.